The rain had soaked every corner of the city that cold Tuesday morning. Cars rushed past without slowing down, umbrellas disappeared into crowded sidewalks, and no one noticed the trembling woman sitting alone outside a small neighborhood cafe. No one except a tired single father who had barely enough money to feed himself. He looked at the warm breakfast in his hands, then at the woman whose eyes carried the unmistakable pain of someone who had not eaten in days. In that single moment, he made a choice that would quietly rewrite both of their lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness always finds its way back, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Rowan Mercer had never imagined life would become this difficult. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife to a sudden illness, leaving him to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, alone. Every morning began before sunrise. Rowan worked 2 jobs, one delivering packages and another repairing bicycles in the evenings. Bills piled up faster than his paychecks arrived. Some weeks he skipped meals so Hazel could enjoy a proper breakfast before school. He never complained because every smile on his daughter's face reminded him why he refused to give up. That morning was especially hard. Rowan had exactly enough money for one simple breakfast sandwich and a cup of coffee before beginning another exhausting shift. As he stepped outside the cafe, he noticed the elderly woman sitting on the wet sidewalk. Her clothes were old but carefully cleaned. She wasn't begging or asking strangers for money. Instead, she stared quietly at the bakery window while holding an empty paper cup that contained nothing except rainwater. Something about her dignity touched Rowan's heart. Without thinking twice, he walked over and gently placed the sandwich and coffee into her hands. He smiled warmly before continuing toward his delivery truck. His own stomach growled loudly, but he ignored it. He had grown used to hunger. What stayed with him all day wasn't the empty feeling inside him but the grateful tears filling the stranger's eyes. Life continued as it always had. Rowan struggled to keep the electricity on, worried about overdue rent, and wondered how long he could keep pretending everything was fine for Hazel. Then came another setback. The bicycle repair shop where he worked evenings closed unexpectedly. Half his income disappeared overnight. Every application he submitted was rejected. Friends wanted to help, but they were facing hardships of their own. Rowan began believing that life rewarded everyone except people like him. 3 weeks later, an unusual black luxury car stopped outside Rowan's tiny apartment building. Neighbors peeked through curtains as several professionally dressed men stepped out carrying leather briefcases. Rowan assumed they had the wrong address until one of them politely asked for him by name. Confused and nervous, Rowan invited them into the modest apartment where Hazel was finishing her homework at the kitchen table. The lead attorney introduced himself and explained that they represented the Hawthorne Family Trust, one of the country's oldest philanthropic organizations. Rowan had never heard the name before. Then the lawyer placed an elegant photograph on the table. It showed the same elderly woman from outside the cafe. Her real name was Vivian Hawthorne. Vivian had quietly dedicated decades of her life to funding hospitals, schools, orphanages, and food programs around the world. After losing much of her family, she spent her later years traveling anonymously to experience how ordinary people treated strangers when they expected nothing in return. Few recognized her, and even fewer offered genuine kindness. The lawyer explained that Rowan's simple act had deeply moved Vivian because he had shared the only breakfast he could afford. She had quietly asked investigators to learn about the men who helped her without seeking recognition. What they discovered broke her heart even more. Rowan wasn't wealthy. He wasn't comfortable. He had sacrificed food for himself while raising his daughter with remarkable love and integrity. Vivian had passed away peacefully only days earlier, leaving behind detailed instructions in her will. She wanted Rowan and Hazel to receive a life-changing gift, not because he expected anything, but because kindness deserved to be multiplied. The attorneys handed Rowan documents establishing a trust large enough to eliminate every debt he owed, purchase a beautiful home, fully fund Hazel's education through college, and create a community center where struggling single parents could receive free meals, childcare, and employment support. Vivian's only request was that the center carry no family name. Instead, its entrance would display a single sentence she had personally written. One breakfast can change a lifetime. Months later, laughter echoed through the completed community center every day. Parents who once felt invisible found hope again. Children received warm meals after school. Volunteers filled the halls with compassion rather than judgment. Rowan continued working, not because he needed the money, but because he wanted every visitor to know dignity came from serving others, not from wealth. Hazel often remembered the rainy morning that had changed everything. She realized her father had taught her the greatest lesson without ever speaking it aloud. True generosity isn't measured by how much we give. It's measured by what we're willing to sacrifice for someone else's happiness. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes goodness still exists, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more emotional stories that restore faith in humanity. Before this story ends, leave a comment with one word: kindness. Let's show the world that compassion is still stronger than selfishness. As Rowan locked the community center one peaceful evening, he looked toward the sunset and smiled. The breakfast he never ate had fed something far greater than hunger. It had nourished hope, transformed countless lives, and proved that even the smallest act of compassion can echo across generations. Sometimes the greatest miracles begin with nothing more than an empty stomach, an open heart, and the courage to choose kindness anyway.